Atlantic City died twice. The famous old resort of the Steel Pier and the Grand Hotels died when jet airplanes and interstate highways made it easy for families to go elsewhere. The community where people lived and worked and worshiped, that community died after casino gambling came to town.
Howdy, it's Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, and this is episode 212 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City podcast. I'm Kyle Eskin, joined as always by Craig Stone. What's good, Craig?
Last episode we said the Baltimore Orioles are good, and then they got swept out of the playoffs.
Yeah, AL East 0-7.
It was terrible. You were very negative about it, and I feel like you put that energy into the world.
I said they had a 7 out of 8 chance of not winning the World Series, which I thought was appropriate, and it's hard to say whether I was right or not, but I'll stand by what I said.
So, Atlantic City, New Jersey, we have stuff to talk about. Mainly that I may be going in 10 days.
Is that true? Because surely last time we talked, you said that you were not going to be going because it was preposterous given that your parents-in-law had just watched your kids for a while.
Yeah, I mean, they had watched them for 4 nights, but out of nowhere, my wife the other day was like, "Do you have a room booked for your birthday in Atlantic City? I thought you did." And I was like, "No, I didn't think there was any chance of that happening." And she texted her parents, and they're fine watching the kids for 1 night only.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little nervous to even bring it up on the show, because the last 4, if not 5 times I've planned a trip with my wife, we've canceled it.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy whatever terrible illness is about to befall your family.
I know. I don't want to talk too much about planning because I feel very jinxy about it.
Uh-huh. Where are you going to be staying in theory?
So I'm booked at Tropicana.
Okay.
When I checked Borgata for the brief period when their website was working, it was like $180-something before taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was tempted because I have $75 free play and $75 birthday special free play on top of that.
And no resort fees.
Yeah, and no resort fees, but I'm not sure quite what the experience at Borgata would be like right now. It seems like they're still dealing with a lot of nonsense, and it seems like it might be a pain to get the free play in the first place.
Is it back down now, everything? Because it seemed like to me, when I last checked a week ago, everything actually did look back up.
So yeah, I was able to check prices for a couple days, and then yesterday and today I can't log into my account. So I don't know what the deal is with that. It seems like it's going great.
It's just going fantastic. Should have been like Caesars and just paid them.
Yeah, I saw in one of the Facebook groups somebody said that you can't go to the MGM rewards desk to check your comp balances, but somehow if you go to a restaurant and use your comps, they'll be able to see what your comp balances is, but that seems very weird.
Or you should just go and be like, put this dinner on my comp, please. And then they'll never know that you didn't actually have comps.
Just leave.
Mm-hmm. By the way, you should not do what Caesars did. Do not pay the hackers.
Hey, their website's working, and that's why I'm booked at Tropicana. So you pay the hackers.
You get Craig Stone's business, truly the highest of high rollers.
Yeah, on a trip with my wife, no less.
Yes,
which will certainly destroy all my Caesars comps.
Straight to the punitive rates.
Yeah.
Although, if you had gone to MGM, they wouldn't have known that you didn't play at all.
Oh,
so
good point.
You wouldn't have gotten the punitive rates.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe I should keep checking the Borgata rates. I was thinking I would stay at Caesars because of the hook and maybe Super Frico. On my rate calendar, every night at Caesars is comped except Saturday, October 21st.
Oof.
And it's $254. So I have a screenshot of my calendar that just shows comp for literally everything, and the only thing that is not comped is Caesars on the date that I want to go.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I'm booked at Tropicana. I booked North Tower.
Oh, North Tower. So South Tower is the only tower I have not stayed in. Well, I haven't stayed in Chelsea Tower either, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
I don't hate myself.
Think I've ever stayed in North, but maybe I have. I don't know.
Yeah, I stayed in North. You've been in my room, I'm pretty sure. It was a very big room with not nearly enough furniture. It was old. It was very old, and it was big, very big. It was like, Atlantic Club, sort of. Gigantic, very empty, sort of out of date.
Oh, okay. As long as it's clean, and, it's close to the casino floor, which I don't actually care that much about, but...
It is the closest to the casino floor.
So we'll see if I actually end up staying there. As you know, I love just repeatedly checking the rates and making changes just for the sake of making changes.
And you also love not going to Atlantic City with your wife.
That's true.
More importantly.
So very quickly, the only plans I have, The Hook Saturday night, probably the late show, because the early show tickets start at like $128. All the cheaper seats are sold out. And then I can't decide if I want to do Super Frico before that or to go somewhere else. I looked at Knife and Fork. It's mostly booked up. October 21st, everybody wants to go to AC. They heard I might go.
Do the Super Frico, man.
Yeah, it looks pretty
Gotta do
good.
it for the pod. You know, I don't really want to do that because I don't love Italian food, so...
And then also for the pod, I'm thinking Hash House A Go-Go for breakfast instead of Gilchrist.
I think that's smart. I've only been to the one in the IP. It was the IP when I went.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
I think my wife would appreciate the larger menu than Gilchrist has, like more interesting breakfast food. So I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. Next episode probably we'll be talking about this because this is only 10 days away. I think we probably have to do, though, the data's going to come out. So we probably have to do like a data-heavy episode and then do the trip report.
I mean, we have to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's what the people want, so it's what we got to do.
I have a clarification from last episode.
Okay.
Island Water Park annual pass. Because we didn't talk about it enough in the last episode. That was the feedback I got, was just not enough breakdown of the
I understand
prices.
that.
The annual pass, we were sort of questioning how long it's for. It's for 1 year from the date of purchase. It is a true annual pass.
Oh, that's good.
It's a good deal.
That's not bad. If you're like a local, you know, I think that's a good expenditure of $400, maybe.
The only other news update I have is that somebody just today, I think, posted in the Wong's Casino Adventures private Facebook group, if you know, you know, that B-Bar at Borgata is closed until October 24th.
Yeah.
So that's another reason for me not to stay.
It takes a long time to change those machines to 6.5 from 9.5 or whatever.
That was one of the first comments. If they're doing any sort of renovation, that probably means the video poker is getting worse, which is probably true, right?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention a few episodes ago, and also we've skipped Always Once Never, so we may want to go back and do that. But I did go to, when we met up and went to an Orioles game, I went to the Horseshoe, and, the most enraging thing about the Horseshoe, well, there's a lot of bad things about the Horseshoe, but I think to get full comped video poker, it's 7.5 only. 8.5 is too rich for them to give you $10 in per reward credit or whatever it is, per tier credit. So that's 25 per for 8.5. Have to be 7.5 to
get out of here, Horseshoe. It's
awful. It's just awful.
You're right. We forgot about Always Once Never. Let's do that now. I was thinking it was going to be mostly a mailbag episode, so I brought in a mailbag Always Once Never. From mailbag superstar Pat G.
Pat G, MVP.
And he said, for Always Once Never, stretches of the boardwalk, north, central, and south. And then as a twist on it, consider what the answer would be in episode 1 versus now.
All right, go ahead.
Now, like north, central, south, are we saying north starts at resorts and goes up to ocean?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then central right now is just Bally's and Caesars, right? And then south
or maybe, you could say north starts at Tennessee Ave or whatever, it goes up. And then central is somewhere past Caesars.
Yeah.
Maybe the other side of the Boardwalk Hall or something.
I think those are good regions. South is just Tropicana.
That would make Irish Pub on the central part of the boardwalk, I think. But, Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall on the north part. Even though neither of those are, really on the boardwalk.
Yeah. Try to keep it on the boardwalk, but also consider not just casinos. So in the south part, yes, Tropicana's there alone, but it's got Beer Garden. It's got Steele's Fudge.
There's another beer garden thing, I think just past the old Atlantic Club, too, that we've never been to.
Oh, interesting. There's the bungalow restaurant / hookah bar thing.
All right, you've got notes. Why don't you give your thoughts first?
For right now, I think it's very, very obvious. I think Always is the north stretch with resorts, Ocean, Hard Rock, Steel Pier, Showboat. I think I just have to give it to that. And then...
Showboat's really the only important one for you.
Right. I mean, I can't get rid of Lucky Snake or the water park.
Right.
Once is the central portion. Although I do think the central portion right now is significantly worse than it was.
Right. Certainly in episode 1, it would be the Always. Not even close.
I really wanted to go contrarian and say Tropicana, but with the Hook and Super Frico and the stuff that Caesars is doing, maybe less so the stuff that Bally's is doing, I have to say at least once for Caesars. And then the south part into the ocean. I mean, there's no good part of the boardwalk to put into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's mine for now.
You think?
What about you?
To me, I think like some of the casinos are sort of interchangeable with each other. So I think Beer Garden is maybe worth a bit more than what you're putting, because that's really like only one thing like that in Atlantic City that I know of.
Like on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Beer garden.
Like just a great place to be in the summer.
Yeah.
On the
the yard sort of tries to do that, but it doesn't succeed.
Yeah, but it does a bad job of it.
Yeah. So where are you going?
I don't know.
I thought that you were going to be like, this is another super obvious one. You're an idiot.
No. I don't think so. I don't think the South Park's going into the ocean, but I don't know what that means. So I'm trying to think about it.
I mean, you can't put the north part in the ocean.
And you can't put the central part in the ocean, right?
Right.
To me, you can't put the water park into the ocean, right? Because that's again, it's, there's only one thing like that. And though I've never been, I don't know what it's like. It can't go into the ocean. Can the Central Park go in the ocean? Caesars and Valleys? There's nothing else, right? Boardwalk Hall.
You can't really put Boardwalk Hall in the ocean either.
Yeah, that seems like that would be unfortunate. All right, I guess South has to go in the ocean. But I don't think it was obvious at all. Every time? The place I want to go, like, every time the most on the boardwalk is Beer Garden, right?
Which you've just put in the ocean.
Right. So, like, do I care if I'm at, like, Caesars versus, Hard Rock? Like, I don't really.
You and I differ a lot in that. I don't find the casinos to be particularly interchangeable. I say as someone who just booked Trop.
Right. Which I don't like Trop very much.
For a trip with my wife, the biggest downer thing about Tropicana is the casino itself.
Yep.
And if you're not going to gamble...
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. Like, it has a lot of restaurant and bar options. It has 3 breakfast places.
You can go right outside and just spend a few hours in the Chelsea Inn.
Take my wife for a very fancy dinner at Tony's Baltimore Grill.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, you can't put this out. I just don't know.
Just say it.
No, I can't say it because that would mean the only casino that I could go to every time I was in Atlantic City is the Trop, and I just cannot do that.
All right. You've already put the South part in the
marina. I could go to the marina. This would be fine.
That's true. Yes, you can still go to the marina.
All right, Central Park's going in the ocean, once in the north, always south. And I'll just actually always be at the marina.
Always south?
Yeah.
So you're going to the Beer Garden in Tropicana every single time?
If the weather's real shit, I'll go to the, Tropicana, or, Gilchrist is attached to the Trop. That counts as being on the ocean, Or Tony's Baltimore Grill probably doesn't count. That's not...
I think it's a little too off the boardwalk.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. Wow.
It's tough. Final answer, always south. Once more north into the ocean, central.
Interesting.
Sorry, Boardwalk Hall. For me, the only thing that, like, really wants me to keep the north is, like, A, maybe the water park, if that works out. We just don't know enough yet. I mean, maybe that'll put itself into the ocean, by just not being used. And B, resorts. But I always say I want to go to resorts, but I never do. So do I really want to go to resorts that bad? Apparently not.
Yeah. I just think it's too terrible to lose 3 casinos. I mean, I like everything up there. Like, I like Ocean more than you like Ocean. I don't like the ocean
or the Hard Rock. So.
I like Hard Rock more than you like Hard Rock.
And I definitely don't
like
Snake. Showboat.
Yeah. So we differ greatly on that one, interestingly.
Yeah.
So going to the second part of the question, what would the answer be for episode 1?
So episode 1...
It was probably the ACH at that point?
No, ACH would have been gone already. Episode 1, Atlantic Club was already closed.
It closed in 2014. When was our first episode?
In November 2015.
Okay.
So it would have been the Taj in the north, like the very horrific form of the Taj, I think.
Yeah, closed Revel.
Revel would have been gone. So it would be only resorts, and Showboat was already gone, right? So it would be resorts only north and terrible Taj. Yeah, the north would go in the ocean, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the north was absolutely the worst part of the city at that point. The worst part of the boardwalk.
Tropicana only would be once more. I mean, maybe because I like resorts more, I could make the north my once and throw Tropicana in the ocean. But, it would be no doubt about it. Like, Central had to stay. That wouldn't have been close.
At that time, it was Bally's, Caesars, Wild Wild West combined.
Yep.
And then also had Boardwalk Hall there. Yeah, Central... far and away, which you also interestingly threw in the ocean right now.
I did just throw in the ocean.
Episode 1, always Central, absolutely. I would say South once, even though at that time it was only Tropicana. Because I think the North was so bad at that point.
Yeah, it was only resorts, effectively, because the Taj was nothing.
You know what was in the central part of the boardwalk for both iterations?
Oh, the pier.
The Rainforest Cafe.
Oh, and
also, yeah. So the central part in episode 1 had the pier that was
would have the pier, and certainly it wouldn't have been the same as it was before, but at least there was probably a couple restaurants still open then.
It did still have the Continental.
The Continental. It had Budokan. Yeah, no brainer. The Central would have had to stay, and now Central just sucks.
Okay.
I mean, I like Caesars, but
it needs a casino renovation.
The new Starbucks looks nice.
You gave us homework.
I did give us homework.
Which I forgot about until the last minute.
Until I texted you that I was going to rewatch the documentary or whatever, news report.
Just like when I had homework in real school.
Mm-hmm.
Very last minute.
Yep.
So hopefully everyone saw the show notes and linked to it.
If not, you can still watch it. Just pause the podcast, go spend your 59 minutes or whatever.
Oh yeah, there's 6 minutes at the end that you don't have to watch.
How much did you like, by the way, the end? The terrible, terrible CBS song.
Oh my goodness. It was brutal. And I thought it ended.
It just kept going.
And then they just show a guy on a cowboy and they're like, it's the heart of America. It's like, what is this? What was going on in 1986? So, yes, we'll link to it again, but we have to talk about it because there's so much to talk about.
Indeed.
Thank you for finding it.
Legitimately, my opening note is I think this special news report from CBS News is actually so good, and it's very much worth watching even in 2023, even with, the big Vodafone logo or whatever over it the whole time.
It's not Vodafone, it's something else. But
whatever it is.
Yeah, so CBS News special report, Big Gamble in Atlantic City. That's what it's called. I'll link to it again. I agree. I think if you like this show, this podcast, you will like this episode. It talks about Atlantic City in great detail. It talks about the casino industry. It talks
has a lot
about
of
comps.
Characters that you'll know about.
Yes, exactly.
Steve Wynn and Angelo and Mary from Mary's Lunchinette. And
some lady who owned a parking thing.
She was quite a character.
Steve Wynn had no time for her. No time. I think just overall, I found it very interesting that when you mentioned it, I think I said on the episode, it must have been very positive towards the casinos because it's 10 years after gambling was legalized. It was 8 years after resorts opened. And, the casinos were doing incredibly well and there's all this development. And it was not positive at all. It was incredibly negative, I thought.
Uh-huh.
And in a lot of ways, when you looked at the video of the city, it looked worse than it does now.
Right.
Just empty lots and stuff being torn down and not built yet and stuff that's sort of earmarked for casino development that's not there yet.
Right. The only difference, I think, between what you'll see in this show from 1986 and how things are now, I think all of the problems in the city are still the same. The only difference is that they talked about in the show a few times, the only people who have won were the land speculators. And there was obviously still this real estate boom in Atlantic City then that was influencing a bunch of people. And obviously that doesn't really exist now. I mean, I think it's starting to exist a little bit again. I think real estate prices are beginning to come up and become a little more attractive. But I mean, other than that, I think it's very relevant for the way things are now.
Yeah, a lot of the things that they talk about are very relevant. They talk about the suburbs really being the winners because all the jobs went to people who are in the bedroom communities.
I still think that everybody that works in Atlantic City lives in, Egg Harbor Township or Pleasantville or something like that.
Absecon. So that I think is incredibly relevant. Hearing the people's perspective from sort of what they thought was going to happen when they were parading down the streets after gambling was legalized versus the reality was very interesting. There was sort of this sense of this will never be a family place. Families will never come here again. The church saying there's not a single kid in the parish at the church anymore. And I think there's been a couple of attempts, there was an attempt in the 90s, I think, to get more family-friendly stuff that really failed.
Right. I mean, I think they've done some stuff to make it a little bit better since then. Steel Pier has come back, obviously, since then, and is a thing now. There's a water park just now in 2023 that's opened, so there's a couple more things, but no, nothing wide scale has ever really been done to this point.
But you do actually see families in Atlantic City. I'll say I think you see a lot of families in Atlantic City.
I think it's different than it was in 1986 when it was by far probably the biggest gambling market in the world.
Yeah, I think actually it was probably 10 years after this video to do the video again. I would be really interested to see because I think at that point, what I was picturing in 86, I think was probably more 96.
Yeah, I think 96 was really the height of Atlantic City's powers.
Yeah, so then you're talking about the Taj Mahal is already built.
Yep.
You've got before the playground, the one pier, the Caesars Pier.
The $1 million pier.
You know, what I'm picturing is like the big Warner Brothers store on the boardwalk is sort of this signal of this is something that you'd see in like Mall of America and it's on the boardwalk. Like clearly there's a market for fancy-ish stores for families also, right? So the boardwalk just seemed very different, and that had not happened yet in '86. Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, it seemed like the only people who were like really buying property and growing were the casinos in '86. Like all the casinos were still coming in. And they even, mentioned a bunch of the casinos and how it sounded a bit with the Golden Nugget and the Atlantis and things like that certainly came up.
Yeah, and I think it was never said at the time, but I think there was still this expectation that all of these empty lots, I mean, everybody was just buying up lots and tearing stuff down to make way for casinos, right?
Right. Obviously, this is before the CRDA as well, which I think probably came in to help take care of some of the aftermath of that, even though they didn't really do anything.
And so I think there was this idea that there was just going to be wall-to-wall casinos in Atlantic City. Like, it was not going to stop at 9 or 12 or wherever it got to. It was just going to be like Vegas, where just everything was casinos everywhere. And that never happened, obviously. At some point you hit capacity and the competition just can't take it anymore. The juxtaposition of like 86 versus now, in a lot of ways, I think Atlantic City like looks better now than it did then, like physically looks better.
I think there's a lot of things that make Atlantic City now more healthy than it was back then. And I think a big reason of that is that obviously the casinos have failed compared to the way they were in 86 or whatever. They're much less important for the city now, even though they're still by far the most important thing for the city. I think it's much less casino-centric these days than it was back then when, like I said, it was the biggest gambling town in the world.
Yeah. That was really interesting just to see it. I think it was presented really well. Like, I think the guy did a great job. Like
Bill Moyers, like, he was absolutely fantastic. I think it was really well done. I think he did a great job putting this piece together.
So do you want to go through any of the highlights? What stuff really jumped out to you?
First, I'm really sad that me and you can't go to Luigi's restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, that looked great.
just fantastic. 1,000 people a night.
Yeah.
No, I think the MVP of the show to me, of like all these semi-famous Atlantic City people or whatever, between, Angelo and Steve Wynn, by far the most famous person that was on here. There was some random art dealer, the guy who owned the Marlboro Blenheim or whatever. Like, I think absolutely everything that dude said was like perfect and like dead on. And like, I think he just had some bangers for quotes.
Yeah, he nailed everything. I mean, everything he said was relevant today.
Right. Like, everything aged super well. He just couldn't have laid things out any better. He mentioned that he was asked by Bill Moyers, who runs the city, or like, is it the government? Is it the casinos or whatever? And he's like, man, this is Atlantic City. Like, no one has ever run this city. It's like, exists as a place that you can just come in and do what you want or whatever. And that's the way it's always been. I thought that was great.
Do the casinos run this town?
Nobody runs the town. The town is without a government. It's without politicians. The town just happens. There's no running of this town. There's nobody here that's planning beyond the next 20 minutes.
Yes, nobody has ever looked beyond the next 20 minutes, which I thought was absolutely perfect and great. They were walking around the boardwalk or whatever, and like, a big part of this was saying how much worse the boardwalk was than it was 10 years ago. And, this guy is like, look around, like, the boardwalk is never going to be this nice again. This is the nicest it's ever going to be again, which I think is like absolutely perfect and turned out to be the case. Yeah, that guy I think he was the MVP of the show for me. Some dude I've never heard of.
Yeah, he also connected, I think, something that when they interviewed some of the merchants and some of the residents, there was sort of this blind spot of the time leading up to 1978, I guess, right?
And I have to say, like, another person who mentioned that was Angelo of Angelo's Fairmount Tavern, where he mentioned at the very end of the show, look, we had to try something. Like, the town was already failing in the 70s, and we tried everything else. We had to try casinos because it was the only thing that we hadn't tried to this point. Which I thought was nice because, the way it's laid out in a lot of the rest of the episode is that, things were great before the casinos came in, which they weren't. So it was nice to hear Angelo mention that.
Yeah, I don't think that Bill Moyers laid it out as things were great. I think he did say,
some of the residents and stuff, I think, laid it out that way.
Yeah, because they do, obviously, there's the people were celebrating in the streets for a reason. Like, obviously, Atlantic City was in this bad place before 1976. Right. And the art dealer guy also did say that it was dying before. But yeah, the residents and I think some of the merchants had this blind spot of the 70s leading up to 78 of, oh yeah, we did 1,000 people a night in our restaurant, and like the boardwalk had these great big stores and you could sell stuff to kids. But the reality was people were leaving already. Like people weren't coming to Atlantic City at that point. And that's the reason that casinos happened. It's like, it's not like the town was this great town to live in 1975 and then casinos came in 1978. It blew it all away. So like the older residents especially, I think, were saying, oh, this was such a nice place to live, and now we just like are here in this shell of a town. But like it was probably going to be mostly a shell of a town without the casinos. Not to totally say that casinos were great, but I think there was that little sort of gap in looking in nostalgia that people had, where they're like falling into this trap of saying like, oh, everything used to be so much better, ignoring like what it would actually be.
Right.
Anyway.
Especially the longtime residents.
Yeah. There are a couple quotes from Bill Moyers. I mean, the end quote where he talks about Atlantic City dying twice.
His opening monologue was just fantastic.
Atlantic City, you see, had been down on its luck. The tourists had stopped coming. Unemployment was rising and neighborhoods were dying. This queen of resorts was beginning to look like a tattered old bag lady huddled on a boardwalk bench.
I have to say, Bill Moyers has like the absolutely like perfect 1960s like radio broadcast voice that you want from this kind of guy too.
Yeah. The section also that I thought was really great, I mean, everything about it was really great, but when he goes into the talk about comps and, you know, how they draw people to the casino.
I love both of the people, both the high roller and the slot player that they did. Just
amazing. So they interview a high roller guy, they interview a lady who's a slot player who takes the bus 3 times a day, $11 bus, and gets a $10 roll of quarters to play in the slots, and she says that some people do it 5 times a day.
Yeah. Man, can you imagine just getting a roll of quarters when you got off the bus instead of, you know, vouchers like these days?
Yeah. It is interesting though, like, so she says the bus is $11 and they give you $10 in quarters.
Right.
And she says if she runs out of her $10, she goes home and then she does it again. And she would sometimes do it 3 times in a day.
Right.
But you're losing $1 every time. If you just bring $30, you only have to go on the bus once and you save $2. These are the people who gamble. These are the people who play slots. My compatriots
maybe there's some way that you could, you know, buy the bus for $9 or $8 or something. You know, because surely she was saying like people were doing this as like their full-time jobs, like just going and getting the quarters and coming back. Like she was saying people were doing it 5 times a day, but it does not make sense at $11 getting $10 of quarters.
Yeah, no, it makes no sense.
No. Also, the high roller is just great. My favorite clip was them getting picked up. I had to figure out where 200 Market Street was. Like, I had to do it. When he's like, yeah, pick me up at the normal place.
The usual spot.
200 Market Street. And I'm like, oh, where is this? I thought it was New York, but it apparently is in Newark, if you were curious where that clip was.
Oh,
like,
great. Interesting.
This dude's getting picked up in the ghetto, man. Amazing. Just amazing.
The thing that jumped out at me about the high roller is like, oh, everybody did dress up in the 80s to go to the casino. I feel like I sort of have this idea that that's a very old school, like nobody ever did that. This is Atlantic City. Everybody was always in t-shirts and flip-flops, but you know, this guy was dressed to the nines. His wife's name was Bunny, which is perfect 1986. Talked exactly like you'd expect, like a cartoon character.
Right.
And yeah, it was great. The whole limo thing and the whole like little sequence with the host was great.
It was good. Raul, the host, calling him up. The beautiful shot of the like 1986 monitor with all his information on it.
Yes, it was great.
Leading into
the Steve Wynn quote about ask any of my customers who are comped how free it is.
Ask any of my customers who are comped how free it is, Bill. You go over and have a lobster and pay $29 or $30 and pay for your room at $120. You paid for it, and you'll give me $1 an hour for the parking. Joe Schmo over there, who was a tremendous casino customer, comes down, and we flew him in a helicopter. He didn't pay a dime. That's worth, $1,500. We put him into a suite that would cost $1,500 a night in New York. And we gave him a meal, including Louis Roederer Cristal champagne and 61 Lafite Rothschild. We finished off with Chateau Yquem and crepe Suzette's, or white chocolate mousse. His tab for the weekend might have been $10,000. He signs his name and walks out. He's comped. Except he lost $25,000. Now, did he pay for that or what?
that whole mindset, I think, has changed a lot. I mean, I think there's a whole lot of complaints about that, right? Of the casinos don't do this loss leader sort of nonsense anymore. There's no 49-cent breakfast or even, $5 breakfast anywhere. It's all
not that much. Yeah.
And I think the casinos have realized that they don't really need to do a whole lot to get you in the door.
The only place you'll see that is at like very low end properties these days. And I don't think anyone in Atlantic City does it.
Right. And so it's funny that Steve Wynn really talks about this mindset of, I'm doing all this stuff to get you in the door to lose money. And the casinos rightfully probably have realized that they don't need to do all that. And it's such a point of frustration, right, I think, for people who are longtime gamblers of like, I used to get all these comps. I mean, I see these posts every 2 days in the Facebook group, like, what gives? My free plays way down. It's like, yeah, they've realized they don't need to give you this stuff to get you in the door. They'll give you like a shitty $15 toaster.
Right.
And like people will be lined up around the block. Like the incentive to get you there is not a lobster dinner anymore. That was interesting, like an interesting time machine kind of thing.
My only last note I have is just in general. I mean, I think in some sense we've lost something in that I don't think there's people really like Steve Wynn that much anymore, where like I think he's helped in this documentary like looking better because his nemesis in it comes across as the most ridiculous person that's ever lived.
Yeah,
I think
parking lot lady.
Because she is.
Yeah.
I think obviously Steve Wynn and like that type of person that, like, is me coming on this show really good for business? Probably not, but I just love hearing myself talk so much that like I can't help it. I feel like it's a throwback to an earlier era. I don't feel like that doesn't really exist that much anymore.
Yeah. Going back to the Boardwalk, the toy store guy was sort of a revelation for me of like, why is the Boardwalk nothing but shitty t-shirt shops?
When casinos came in, I had a large store. I had a 75-foot front on the Boardwalk. I was there a year, and they decided that the area that I had would benefit them better if it was a deli. So they basically threw me out. So I moved down the Boardwalk and opened a small store and tried to stay to my better toys. Right now, I changed the store to a t-shirt shop.
So it's like, oh, yes, okay, apparently the only thing that can survive is... He even says the only thing that you can sell is cheap stuff, is 99-cent gifts and not big expensive
It's like
stuff.
that. I feel like in Ocean City, Maryland, it's like that as well. It's just all t-shirt shops.
And the Kite Loft.
Yeah, and the Kite Loft.
Any other thoughts on this whole thing?
Again, I watched it for the second time just before recording this episode, and I thought it was just as good the second time I watched it, so I can heartily recommend just going out and watching this on YouTube. And I thought Bill Moyers, like I said, did just a fantastic job, and I thought it was really well put together, and I think it gives good background and is still like super relevant in 2023, even though this is from 40 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it does a really good job of having some nuance, even though it does, I think, go pretty hard at like, okay, well, the casinos are not...
It's anti-casino, for sure. Like, I think that is their viewpoint. But yeah, I think they're still fair in how they present things.
Yeah. I mean, one other point, I think it was interesting, the art dealer guy, he said he owned the Marlboro Blenheim, him and a partner, I think. Mm-hmm. And he was ashamed that he didn't fight more to keep them from knocking it down, which I think was fascinating. That already at that point, 10 years in, there was already a regret about having lost some of these iconic buildings. Because in my head, it's the casinos came in, the state did not want these old buildings here anymore. Everything needed to be new construction. Let's knock it all down and build casinos. And it was pretty clear that there were already people saying like, oh, this used to be big, like grand stuff, and we've lost it.
I think it needs to be said that this was not mentioned really very much, but I do think if you look at this through the lens of 2023, the state doesn't really come out looking very good either. Where is all this money going that they're getting? Obviously not to Atlantic City. And people are like pestering Steve Wynn about why he's not making the city better or whatever. But what is the state doing?
Yeah, he only sort of mentions that very briefly. Like the money's going to the state. Like the state's made a ton of money. Right. And it's been big winners in this. I mean, I do think Steve Wynn is very much trying to absolve the casinos of any blame. And I think you can still blame the casinos for being short-sighted.
Which they are, or well, they certainly were, and continue to be, I think.
They are saying, like, well, it's not our job to improve the town. But, like, okay, well, if you don't improve the town, then, that's why Atlantic City can't support more than 9 or 10 casinos.
That's why it's going to start going downhill in 2000.
Right. Like, people don't want to go to a town that looks like that. So... Mm-hmm. obviously, you know, the casino's interest is in making the most money possible. And like we've talked about this a ton on the show, like they have no incentive to do that, especially when they're just raking in money hand over fist for really like the next 15 years after this video is made.
Yeah. Anyway, it's great. Highly recommended. That's kind of my review of things.
Yeah. Like I said, if you like the show, you'll like that show.
My favorite commercial that came up during it was the Yugo commercial, but, you know, I don't know if you had a different pick.
I did have a different pick.
The Slice commercial at the very end I thought was kind of good and wild, too, if you watched till like 58 minutes.
Oh, I did not. I turned it off after the terrible CBS song. The Lawn V shampoo ad with the woman like whispering.
Really creepy.
It was terrifying.
The 80s, man.
It was terrifying. Perfume-infused shampoo, basically.
Parfum.
But yeah, the woman is like, I don't know, some sort of Eastern European or something, has an accent, made up to the nines, hair all permed out.
It's like basically a 1-900 commercial from back in those days is what it came across as to me, except it's for shampoo and not for 1-900 numbers.
So, that's the video. It was excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks for finding it.
Everyone needs a little Yugo sometimes.
That's true. I like how it has rack and pinion steering.
Rack and pinion steering.
And front wheel drive, which the Ford also, they were like, this Ford Taurus has got front wheel drive.
Yeah.
Front wheel drive was a big deal in 1986, I guess.
I mean, I think it is more convenient in some ways.
Like, oh, you're tired of spinning out every time you hit a patch of ice?
Tired of just like, being stuck in the snow forever.
Yeah, it's great.
All right. Do you want to do like one or two of these mailbag questions? I think that's the best thing to do, and we can save the other ones for the next, data extravaganza and not trip reports.
Okay. I've got a couple that I think are worth saving. Let's do the first one first.
All right.
RPB on Twitter asked, do the AC casinos still have race books?
So hopefully you've done some research on this. As far as I know, the only one that still exists is in Borgata, but you are free to correct me if I'm wrong.
That, I believe, is correct. So there used to be a little one at Harrah's. There used to be a bigger one in Caesars.
In Bally's, there used to be one as well. Bill's Poker and Ponies.
Yeah, I mean, the race books have sort of made them obsolete. I mean, the sports books.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating to me that Borgata still has an actual race book.
Horseshoe in Maryland has a race book.
Does it really?
Uh-huh, yeah.
There was a picture recently, actually, in one of the Facebook groups of somebody had sort of gotten behind a barrier and taken a picture of Caesar's race book, still almost entirely intact, very dusty, and very, trapped in a time capsule. So that was interesting.
Where was that? Remind me.
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't know where the Caesars one was.
So, yeah, only Borgata, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I'll go to this other question. Lou D, also a mailbag legend, asks, when I'm in Rhode Island, I drink Narragansett beer. When I'm in Pittsburgh, it is Iron City. And sadly, when in Maryland, I actually seek out Natty Boh.
Not a Maryland beer, but...
Not anymore. I will interject here to say that Natty Boh is significantly better than Iron City, which is not saying that either of them are good.
I think IC is fine.
I haven't seen a local old-school shitty beer in AC, but wondering if there is one I'm missing. Craig, don't try to tell me that some millennial hipster bullshit hazy IPA is a good substitute. I'm looking for something on par with Schlitz.
I have to defend Craig here. He would not say a hazy IPA is a good substitute, but probably a regular IPA, hipster regular IPA.
Yeah. I have said on this podcast in the past, I love fancy barrel-aged whatever beer that's $10 a bottle. Mm-hmm. But I really love cheap swill. I am not above drinking Natty Light, Busch Light. High Life, I think, is fantastic. But I have to say, disappointingly, there is not an AC beer like this.
Is there anything like that in New Jersey at all?
No, I don't think we really have sort of that, local crappy macro kind of beer. Philly even, that's what I researched, because I was like, maybe Philly sort of has something like this, and I couldn't even find that.
Where's Genesee from? That's upstate New York?
Yeah, upstate New York.
That's a cheap, shitty beer.
Yes, very shitty beer. For a second, I was going to say, the closest thing maybe is almost Yuengling. Yuengling's in Pennsylvania. You can find it everywhere in AC.
Yeah.
But it's not really the same.
It's not the same.
And AC, as in its own, does not have something like that. So there's not just, a classic crappy AC beer. And I don't think there's even a crappy classic Philly beer, but somebody from the Philly area can maybe correct me on that. Although, they have Yards Pale Ale everywhere, and that's really crappy, so maybe that just fits in. That's a joke, because Yards is a microbrewery that thinks it's good. I think most of what Yards makes is very, very bad.
Victory, that's from Pennsylvania, right? Trogs, I don't know. I think all those are maybe Pennsylvania.
Trosts and Hershey Victories, I don't know where in Pennsylvania. But again, these are like little microbrews.
No. It's a millennial hipster bullshit, as Sluty says.
Diving Horse Pale Ale.
Yeah.
At the Tun Tavern.
That's like, it's not all the way up the alley of what Ludi's looking for, but more so certainly than like the Seed.
Yes, I agree. I mean, again, though, I think you've got to still call it sort of millennial hipster bullshit, but it's the closest thing.
It's the closest thing I have. Yeah, no, I don't know of anything that's really exactly what you're looking for.
And I think we can save the other questions. Ludi has another question, but I think we'll save that for a further mailbag episode.
Oh.
Unless you want to go for it.
I can go for it. I'm reading it now. So he asks, what is going on with tiles? I've noticed a quick decline in offerings in the last 2 years, and Kyle's talked about the drop-off as well. Stayed at Trop over the 4th of July. The table was never open. Ocean's 2 tables are down to 1 and seem to be only open limited hours over Memorial Day weekend. Is this due to declining demand? Is it not profitable enough, or is there a combination of factors? I would assume it's a couple things. Declining demand might be one of them. I have no idea. Someone who's kind of more plugged into the gaming world would be able to tell you better. I think it's probably a combination of like, it's not super profitable, and maybe demand is, maybe people are willing to play something else if there's a tiles table not open. I think a lot of it is it might be hard to find dealers to deal it too. I think a lot of what you're seeing at casinos is because they're just having problems staffing at the salary they want to be able to staff these table games at.
No one wants to work, Kyle.
No one wants to work for whatever the going rate is. You can look around and say, like, it's probably a good thing by and large, but, unemployment is, like, historically low still, more or less. So, yeah, staffing's a problem. I assume that's a lot of it, too. But, it's something that if things do start to come back, tiles would be an easy thing to just be like, we don't need to bring that back. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I've definitely noticed it as well. Tiles is much less prevalent than it has been. They did still have one tiles table open when I was at the Horseshoe Baltimore, by the way, and 0 normal Pai-Gow or face-up Pai-Gow tables open. So
that's fascinating.
Just being the tiles destination on the East Coast.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about the dealer thing, although the Horseshoe example is a fascinating counterpoint to that. But it's a much harder game to deal. I think a lot of what we're hearing with dealer stuff is, they want you to be able to deal multiple games. That's why they tried to do this craps thing where you only need one stick man and you're putting in your bets on a kiosk and that kind of stuff. And, it's a very specialized game with specialized rules, whereas like you can probably deal Pai-Gow poker very easily.
I've had some terrible experiences at Pai-Gow tables, though they've been profitable because the dealer hasn't known what they're doing, where, the dealer has to like go to the computer in the middle of the table, which tells them how to set their hand, and they're still making a mistake every time. Nothing like that exists in tiles right now that I know of. So it is a complicated game that's hard for people to pick up. And I would assume a lot of it is just staffing problems.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Would you play video Pai-Gow tiles if somebody made a video version of Pai-Gow tiles?
I don't know why I would do that, but maybe. When I was in Macau, they had video Baccarat that teased you in the same way that a squeeze game does, where it like turns the corners a little bit when you're doing it. And I played that for a while.
Oh, interesting.
Just to get familiar with it. And I thought it was fun just because it was like a novelty, and like you like the teasing, every once in a while.
I was going to say, like, the thing about Baccarat and tiles is both, like, a squeeze game. It's tactile, right? In a way that, like, very little other gambling is. And so you just lose all of that in the video machine.
But, they've made one that's like it, they, like, let you peek at a corner, and you can peek at the other corner, and, that's good.
I haven't played tiles in a while. Maybe I'll play next weekend when I'm in Atlantic City.
So full of shit.
Hey, I am staying at a hotel that has at least 7 Wonder Woman machines.
That's true. And it has a tiles table that certainly when I went was not open on Saturday night, and apparently when Ludi went over the 4th of July was also just not open at all. So
yeah, I don't expect to play any table games at Tropicana because playing table games there is a huge pain in the ass because it's so crowded. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I'll just go to terrible video poker and my Wonder Woman machines.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. If you want to reach out to us, or at least Craig or any of our other listeners, you can do so at our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/2forwin. Find all of our great content at 2forwin.com. Reach out to Craig on Twitter at 2forwin and me at Kyle Askin, and send Craig questions to 2forwin@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to answer at least one next week.
I like this, answering a couple questions.
I like it too. I like it a lot.
And I'm hoping that it serves as an invitation to send more questions.
Yes, more
and
questions.
then we can just regularly answer questions.
You know, I'm sure you have questions from 9 months ago in the email box that you still have not responded to, but
Possibly.
yeah, send us more questions. I think it's fun too. All right. Well, any last words, Craig?
No, I'm still sad about the Orioles.
Yeah.
There's something about baseball, about like the everyday nature of baseball, that when it's over and you don't have your team to watch anymore, it's like, oh, this really sucks. Like, that was such a like nice little thing to have to look forward to every day. And I'm sure in a few days I'll watch the playoff games, because like playoff baseball is very exciting and good. But like, yeah, right now it sucks.
You shouldn't watch any baseball. That's my advice.
Yeah,
I watched
you're not a fan.
zero baseball games this year, except for when I was literally sitting in Camden Yards. It's the only baseball I've watched this year.
You know how many downs of Ravens football I've watched this year?
0.
And I feel like I'm a better person for it.
Yeah, that's how I feel about baseball. Well, I can say that Ravens games I've watched, they're 3-0 this year. Ravens games I have not watched, they're 0-2. So I am planning on watching the London game this weekend, so they should win. And then I will be on an airplane the next weekend, so they're definitely going to lose. I think that's against the Lions in 2 weeks. So feel free to use that information for your wagering needs.
We're handicappers now.
Yeah.
When, is Kyle watching the Ravens or not?
I think I should be able to watch the London game, so I think we'll be okay this weekend. But yeah, in 2 weeks, and the Lions are like kind of
very good
too. So, all right. Well, thank you all very much for listening, and we'll try to get you another episode with probably not a trip report in 2 weeks, because Craig will surely not go.
You were negative about the Orioles, and look what happened. And now you're negative about my trip, and look what's going to happen.
All right. Have a great couple weeks, everyone.
Share the spirit of CBS. Can you feel it all around you? The love is everywhere. Oh yes, we've got the spirit. It's here for us to share. Oh, it's about friends who've grown to care for. About family, oh yeah. Share the spirit of CBS. The heartbeat of America is here day in, day out. So let the spirit move you. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.